Welcome to our showdown between 4 of the best-selling Dyson V7 replacement batteries on Amazon. If you've ever checked the OEM price of a Dyson V7 battery, you'll know that they're expensive and you may be considering an off-brand replacement to save some money. So are they worth it? And is there one that outperforms the others? Let's take a look. As a quick disclaimer, these batteries were purchased new at retail prices by House of Vacuums for the sole purpose of this review. We will start by testing each of the batteries' high-speed run times on a brand new factory-fresh Dyson V7. We only test on high and not low because high gives us a better idea of the quality of the battery pack and how it deals with a high discharge rate. More stress means more heat, and the more heat created equates to potentially shorter run times. On the bottom of the OEM battery, we can find the marking 21.6 volts equals 16.2 amps. Because this states that the battery requires 16 amps, we're going to want to make sure that the replacement batteries use cells that are rated for greater than 16 amps of current. All of these batteries, including the OEM, quit within 6 degrees Fahrenheit of each other. This leads me to believe that the batteries are thermally controlled. This means the battery will stop supplying power at a given temperature despite how much juice is left in the cells. This means the limitation to runtime is more likely thermally constrained for safety as opposed to being only constrained by low voltage. First up is the OEM battery. This is from a brand new vacuum, and I have charged and discharged it a couple of times to get the longest runtime. When tested, this battery ran for 7 minutes 25 seconds on high with a maximum temperature of 107 degrees Fahrenheit. This was with a carpet nozzle attached to the machine to simulate a more regular mode of vacuuming. All of the other testing will also include the carpet nozzle. It is well known and documented on the internet that the V6 and V7 OEM battery packs use Murata VTC4 cells. These are excellent high discharge cells that will withstand up to 30 amps of discharge, so well above our safety threshold of 16 amps. The OEM battery is normally $96 direct from Dyson. However, Dyson is constantly out of stock on these models. You may be able to find an odd genuine battery online, however, it is getting harder. My preference is always for the OEM battery, but Dyson's supply chain issues are not making this a viable option for those who need their vacuum repairs as soon as possible. So first we're going to look at the Kunlun 4.0 amp-hour replacement battery. At the time of purchase, this cost $37. Running this on high resulted in a 6-minute 38-second runtime and an external temperature of 111 degrees. This is safe, however, it runs both hotter and shorter than the OEM. Upon disassembly of the Kunlun, we can see a pretty clean construction of this battery. The circuit board is neat and features nickel strips that conduct electricity from the cells to the board. These are very low resistance and add to the safety and quality of the cells. Likewise, the board looks pretty good too. It uses BTW 20PC cells. BTW is a Chinese manufacturer of cells, and it's almost impossible to find the amperage rating on these guys. However, after some digging, I found them on Alibaba with a listed max discharge rate of 10C. At a listed capacity of 2000 mAh multiplied by 10C and divided by 1000 equals 20 amps. These are within spec for the needs of the V7's motor. However, no-name Chinese cells also come with a lot less quality control and possibility for failure, so at this point in the competition, I'm skeptical of this battery. We should also note that the battery pack is rated for 4.0 amp-hours, but the actual capacity of these cells is 2.0 amp-hours, or half of the stated battery capacity. Now the DTK 4.0 amp-hour replacement battery. The cost at time of purchase was $35. This ran for 7 minutes 32 seconds and reached 113 degrees Fahrenheit, which is a longer run time than the Kunlun, on par with the OEM. The DTK also showed very nice nickel terminals and a clean board. For cells, it was running the PROS 18650 F2s. These are made by Hunan Pros Power in China, and there is a datasheet available for them. However, the datasheet shows these as being 2000 mAh with a maximum discharge rating of 3C. If we multiply the 3C by 2000 mAh and divide by 1000, that equals 6 amps. This is way too low for the needed 16 amps of power the Dyson will take. This is a little surprising as the runtime was the best of the test. Typically, low amperage cells will get really hot when discharging quickly, resulting in low run times. While this did run the longest, it did pass the 100-degree threshold quickest out of all 4 batteries, so that may be why. In addition, this is advertised as being a 4.0 amp-hour battery, but the cells are only rated to 2.0 amp-hours. The Kotolate 4.5 amp-hour replacement battery ran for the shortest time yet of 5 minutes 52 seconds with a maximum temperature of 113 degrees Fahrenheit. At the time of purchase, this cost $29, which was the cheapest in the test. For the Kotolate, upon disassembly, the circuit board and leads looked great, almost identical to the DTK and Kunlun. For the cells, they are the EVE 15P models. EVE is a reputable Chinese cell manufacturer with documentation readily available. The data sheet lists the maximum discharge rating for these cells as 30 amps, so it's very safe for our application. However, the battery is listed as 4.5 amp hours, and the cells are only rated to 1.5 amp hours. This is what resulted in the short run times, even though this uses great cells. Finally is the Powerextra 5.0 amp hour. This costs $36 and is one of the more recognizable brands among the no-name Dyson replacement batteries. It ran for 7 minutes 19 seconds and reached 109 degrees Fahrenheit. Upon dissection, we found a really messy circuit board and leads. This may work fine, but it certainly doesn't inspire confidence. Using soldered wire instead of machine-welded nickel strips as leads is just such a terrible way to cheap out. Does this mean that Powerextra will have a shorter service life? There's no way to know. It may be fine, but there's definite signs of cost cutting. However, one of these areas of cost cutting is not the cells. These are the EVE 25P cells. Like the aforementioned 15P, these are reputable with an easily obtainable data sheet. These are rated up to 30 amps of continuous discharge, but unlike the 15P, these have a 2.5 amp hour rating. This is still well under the advertised 5.0 amp hours, but it's still better than the 1.5 amp hours of the 15Ps. This is probably one of the most difficult Dyson battery contests we've had, and I'm torn about which pack to pick. But before we pick, if you found this helpful, please click the like button. It's so incredibly important to us. Also, if you want to look for quality vacuums or contact information, please visit thehouseofvax.com. That's Vax with an S. Now on to our winner. I can't pick just one, so I'm going to select 2, and each one is flawed. It just depends on how you want them to be flawed. In a tie for first is the Kotolate. The construction of this battery is very nice. It has a clean circuit board, nickel leads, and reliable cells. However, in terms of the cons, this uses very low amp hour cells. This runs almost 2.5 minutes shorter than the OEM, DTK, and Powerextra at 5 minutes 52 seconds. It's hard to justify buying a new battery that has a shorter runtime than the OEM despite having quality cells and build. The second in the tie for first is the Powerextra. This has a great runtime at 7 minutes 19 seconds, a low operating temperature on high, and brings high capacity, high quality cells. However, the con here is the cost cutting in areas other than the cells. The circuit board and leads just look really sloppy, and again, it's hard to say whether or not this will result in shorter overall life, but it does not give a good impression. As usual, I'll remind you that I'm not an electrical engineer, and this is simply a list of observed traits found in these batteries. If you want something that's guaranteed to be safe and reliable, the OEM battery is always the best choice. However, if I could pick only one between the Powerextra and the Kotolate, I would probably try the Powerextra. I just can't give up the runtime that's sacrificed with the Kotolate, so I'd be willing to roll the dice with the Powerextra, especially for the price of $36. If you want to look at other brands of replacement battery, check out our battery dissection playlist here, or this awesome Dyson battery testing video. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.